Hill here with us. Obviously, as you know, president of Global Sales and really runs the entire network side of Beachbody. And kind of coming into the end of our hustle with what we have going on. Hey, Ashton, will you just mute yourself, please? With kind of tying up the whole leadership development realm, what we have been really working on the last 8 weeks. I'm really excited, though, like I said, to really get Jeff to really speak on this topic. So he's going to be speaking on why coaches would want to follow you, which is a huge topic. But I'm just going to allow him to kind of just jump into it. So Jeff Hill, go ahead.
Jump into it. Wow. Okay. Well, number one, thanks for letting me jump on with you guys. I appreciate it. There's so much enthusiasm in the room. So everybody just needs to take a big breath and kind of smile for me. So at least I know I'm among friends, or at least a few friends. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, so we are going to jump in. We're going to move fast. And as Britt talked to me and said, what would you like to talk about, or what do you think would be a good deal? One of the great questions that I got asked way back when was, I worked with a company called Covey Leadership Center. And I happened, they were based here in Utah. We would bring people in from all over the country, from great big, from large Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. And we did a leadership development workshop. It was called Principle-Centered Leadership. And one of the first questions that they would ask is, they got you in here you are, you're literally with some of the brightest, best leaders, of some of the very, very best companies in the world. And then they kind of sucker punched you, in this thing. And they just said, so why would anyone choose to follow you? Okay. And that's one of those questions that just immediately gives you pause, right? Because it's an immediate evaluation of what you do and how you do it. Is anybody following me? Is anyone really choosing to follow me? I mean, sometimes they have to follow you, but then the question is, would they choose to follow you? And if so, why would they choose to follow you? And I remember sitting there thinking, gee, I don't know. And of course, that's exactly the position that they wanted to get you in, is to be thinking about that kind of a thing, to do the evaluation so that there's an opportunity to move. And so if I had I always talk about the magic wand moment, right? If I had my magic wand and said to you guys, why would anyone choose to follow you? I hope that you'll internalize that question and kind of bury that deep for a few minutes. But what I want to do over the course of the next little bit is to talk about some areas where I believe that you can increase your leadership quotient, your leadership abilities. And you're going to see that most of these things, they don't happen in one fell swoop. Stuff doesn't happen typically in one great big fell swoop as much as we would like it to. It takes work, it takes effort, it's a little bit at a time, it's incremental, but it's that cumulative effect, the compounding effect of experience and those kinds of things that come together. Now, Britt's already heard this story. Maybe some of the others have already heard this little piece as well. But just to kind of set this up, so I just shared this the other day with Brittany and a group in the office. So I've got a large family. My 2 youngest kids who are no longer young, are serious in some relationships, and they're talking the M word. Okay, they're talking about getting married, and I struggle with that a little bit, but it's like, get over it, because it's probably going to happen whether I like it or not. And but I was talking to Topher. So Topher is my second youngest. He has a girlfriend by the name of Jensen, and they were talking about getting married sometime potentially in the fall, about eight months away. And they've dated for a long time. They like each other. They love each other. They know our family. We know their family. And I was sitting there as a dad, and I'm going, okay, what do I do? What do I do with this situation? Because it's almost inevitable that it's going to happen. But what could I share, or what seeds could I plant so that as Topher prepares himself for this, it's not something that just happens, that he just doesn't acquiesce. He just doesn't coast into it, but that he looks at this moment as something that becomes really pretty substantial and remarkable. So I had the father-son conversation, not the conversation, but the other conversation, right? And so we sat down, and he was really, really good. And I said, so Toph, this is probably gonna happen. And there's 2 ways that this can happen. I mean, you love Jensen, you like Jensen, you know her family, you guys know you want to get married sometime in the fall. At least that's what they're talking about. Who knows what will happen now? But anyway, they're talking about that. And I said, there's one way for this to happen. You know, that could be very probable. You can coast into this thing. Okay, you can, because all the pieces are in place. You know her. You know her strengths. You know her weaknesses. You guys will go through the wedding planning. You'll do the cute pictures. You'll get the flowers. You'll get the doilies. You'll get the donuts. You'll get the whatever you're going to do. You know, with the receptions, all that kind of stuff that is, I guess, kind of important. You know, I mean, to me as the dad, they just kind of cost money. So I look at them and I don't think they're all that important. But girls kind of think they're important, right? So I said, so you can do this, and you can coast into this thing, okay? And it will happen. And on the wedding day, it'll be great, and you'll go, oh, this was cool. You know, this was fun. Didn't we look cute? A cute couple, and bam, you know, you're married, type of a thing. I said, that's an approach, okay? There's a second way to do this. You could look at that date and you could say, okay, we know this is going to happen. We want this to happen, but we want this to be this stunningly amazing, remarkable event for which we have prepared ourselves now. And we have done the best that we can to improve ourselves together as a couple and our personal leadership abilities to be ready for that date. So when that date comes, it's just not that the flowers and the doilies and the donuts and the colors and all that kind of stuff are right. But when that date comes, there'd be something that would be, you could look back and say, it was stunning. It was amazing. It was incredible because we prepared ourselves for this. And even though it's only 8 months out, you can do pretty remarkable things in 8 months. And so we had this rich conversation about what that would look like and what it would take. And again, there wasn't any creation of world peace in this, but what there was these discussions about, well, what scares you most? Okay, if that's the piece that scares you most, if it's communication, you know, when things get, you know, a little tense, then why don't you take a communication class? If you're concerned about finances, why don't you take a finance class? You know, if you're concerned about this or about that, why don't you guys work on that? Since marriage is about service, why don't you guys go do some service stuff together? You know, go paint a widow's fence, go down to the homeless shelter, go do something with each other so that you see each other in service, and you've just kind of added those arrows into your quiver that will better prepare you for that. So anyway, we had this discussion, and it was this time where all of a sudden there started to get this excitement about what was coming forward. So what has that got to do with you? To me, as you look at your leadership ability, as you look at what's happening, oftentimes we look at leadership and we go, man, what is it? It's so big, it's hard to define. But really, it's some smaller things that when added together, the cumulative effect, I think, comes together where over time, your ability to lead yourself, to do self-leadership, and then that then leads to the point where other people will choose to follow you because of what you're doing, who you are, and who you are becoming. People want to be around people who are becoming better. They want to be lifted. And if you're in this state of stagnancy, okay, or you've chosen mediocrity, okay, you're choosing mediocrity because of not choosing something else, then it's time to kind of kick yourself out of that and move over. So what I did is I took some thoughts from good old John Maxwell and on a book that he had put out called No Limits. And I really liked it because what it does is it talks about increasing your capacity, your leadership capacity in some very, very small areas. And he starts with this premise that capacity is made up of this. It's awareness of where you are, of looking at your abilities, and then making conscious choice. So awareness plus, and I'm going to look at some notes, awareness plus ability plus choices equals capacity. Okay, so there's some key pieces. First off, you've got to be aware of where you are. Okay, then you've got to assess your abilities and improve on those abilities. And then the third piece is you have to make conscious choices that will improve that. So here's some premises as we start out. One, the changes that I'm going to suggest don't have to be dramatic to be impactful. Okay, this isn't going to be like I'm creating world peace, but it may be, the quote that I share often too, the Jiffy Lube quote that says, "I don't want to change your world, I just want to change your oil," kind of a thing. And it really is kind of that small. I just want to do something little that gets you going, to get you moving faster. But here's the reality is you will have to change. People love progress, but they don't like change, right? But you're going to have to change in order to do this. So that's the other piece. So here's the deal. Your capacities aren't set. You'd have more potential than you've got right now. Okay. 2, you can become aware of what the possibilities look like. 3, you can remove the caps of what your possibilities are. You may have some self-limiting beliefs that I think are probably misconstrued or inappropriately imposed on yourself. And then I think a great piece about it, and I'll end with a quote that I love from Viktor Frankl, but it's about that you can make choices that can maximize your possibilities in yourself. Because here's the deal. You can be successful if others don't believe in you, okay? But you can't be successful if you don't believe in you. Okay. And so you've got to take control of this. And we're all kind of like 18 speed bikes or 21 speed bikes. We kind of use 6 gears all the time or 3 gears all the time. And you're going, wow, once you discover these other gears and discover the strength, it becomes kind of nice. So, okay, here's where we're going to go. I'm going to talk about, get my notes to the right place, about some things you can't do anything about, and then quickly some things that you can do. And I'm gonna try and move real quickly here, and it'll just probably whet the appetite for you to think differently. So there's some things you can't do anything about, right? Some caps that are placed on you. You can't change your place of birth. Okay, you can't change the color of your skin. You can't change your parents. You can't change the order of where you were born. Okay, some of your you can't change that kind of stuff. You really can't change. Okay. Sometimes there's things that happens in life also that you can't change because life happens. Okay. Death, disability, divorce, that kind of stuff. It's going to come to all of us. Okay. And some of those things, some are driven by choice, but oftentimes we know that stuff is just going to come to us. Okay. So those kind of things, you just have to go, okay, the real opportunity is how I choose to deal with those. But there are some caps that you can change in your life. And so I'm going to go through them quickly. There's about 10 of them, okay? So it sounds like a litany, but you're going to pick some and they're going to kind of fold together. The first capacity that I think that you have that you can change in your life, and the first is energy, your energy capacity. And what that means is this. It's not that you're looking for more time, but it's on focusing on the pieces in your life that give you more energy. All of us know what things kind of suck the energy out of us, but you also know the things that you kind of sit back and you go, man, I was born to do this. This is the piece where I have intense energy. There's some stuff I'm required to do, but there's some stuff that I feel rewarded to do. And so as you look and examine and sit back and look at yourself and say, what gives me energy? You can choose to focus on the areas that give you more energy in your life. Okay, so that's the first one that you can look at. And again, I think the motto, the litmus test for that is what was I born to do? What gives me energy, and how do I spend more time in that? The second one, and this is a big one, is emotional capacity. Now, you kind of go emotional capacity. What really is that? What emotional capacity is? It may surprise you. What that is your ability to deal with discouragement, with criticism, with failure, with all of the headwinds that come to you. Okay? It's your ability to manage your emotions in those kind of situations. Emotionally strong people don't buy in or give in to a victim type mentality. Okay? And you can choose how to deal with those kind of situations, with mistakes, okay, in your life, how to grow through your struggles in your life. There's a great article. You're not going to be able to see it here very well, but it's a Harvard Business Review article, and it's called "The Crucibles of Leadership." And I'm going to just read a little tiny piece of it because it makes the point really well here about really when they look at leaders, one of the defining natures of leaders. And if you don't know what a crucible is in the old days, they used to use it as it's the refiner's fire. The alchemists in the old days, when they were trying to find pure metals, they would heat it up extremely hot and it would melt, and then they would clean out the impurities to get the purest metals of all. And they called the thing that would hold those the crucible, okay? And so they referred to this article as the crucible of leadership. But I thought this was so telling. It says, as lifelong students of leadership, we're fascinated with the notion of what makes a leader. Why is it that certain people seem to naturally inspire confidence, loyalty, and hard work, while others who may have just as much vision and smarts stumble again and again? It's a timeless question, and there's no simple answer. But we have come to believe it has something to do with the different ways that people deal with adversity. Indeed, our recent research has led us to conclude that one of the most reliable indicators and predictors of true leadership is an individual's ability to find meaning in negative events and to learn from the most trying of circumstances. Put another way, the skills required to conquer adversity and emerge stronger and more committed than ever are the same ones that make for extraordinary leaders. And then it goes on through the article, and I'm just going to read a couple more little captions here. This is just like I'm giving you the highlights of it. We came to call the experiences that shape leaders crucibles, after the vessels medieval alchemists used in their attempts to turn base metals into gold. For the leaders we interviewed, the crucible experience was a trial and a test, a point of deep reflection that forced them to question who they were and what mattered to them. It required them to examine their values, to question their assumptions, to hone their judgment, and invariably they emerged from the crucible stronger and more sure of themselves with greater purpose. They changed in some fundamental way. And then it talks about how these leaders also found how to communicate what that crucible was in their life. But it really talked about then how they were able to put that into context, and that they came out with this great sense of grit, with a hardiness in those moments. And so without making this all about that one topic, as you look at who you are and you look at your emotional capacity, okay, you can choose, you have the ability to look at those situations and say, I'm going to expand my emotional capacity. I am going to consciously choose how to deal with this failure. Oh, that didn't work. My challenge, and you can take it down. This doesn't mean it has to be life and death, okay? It might just be small things in your business. I didn't lead that group like I wanted to. Oh, I didn't develop that diamond like I wanted to. Oh, I didn't hit that rank. But it's like, okay, some people could call that a failure. But you could say, okay, what did I learn from that? How did that define me? How did that refine me? I'm going to choose to learn. And I've learned that as I look at all of the coaches that have been the most successful, all leadership, they have a strong emotional capacity, okay? Number 3, capacity that you can expand on. Thinking capacity, okay? These are really pretty simple when you think about it. But see what I did there, think about it, thinking capacity, is that you can develop your ability to expand your thinking. How would you do that? Well, it's by who you surround your people with, by thinking about different options, about as you come with a solution to something, write it down, refine it, think about it. Does it really hit the point that you want it to hit? The other piece is that I think is a great way. I was reading this article from a woman who was the chief creative officer for a company, and she is a fair to say a very liberal a very liberal woman, so to speak. Okay, San Francisco liberal kind of, if it's fair to stereotype that in some way, businesswoman. And she says, one of the things I do to try and keep my mind fresh, and this is to be illustrative, she said, the last thing that I would want to go do is go do, like, for example, camping, or understand the National Riflemen's Association, okay, or popular mechanic, something like that. Okay, what floats their boat? But she says, what I do is I will subscribe to their magazines, or I'll consciously read articles so that my thinking expands, and I try and see how they think about things. And if there are lessons that I can learn that will help me apply from what works in their business to this business. The whole idea here is that you're changing your thinking and elevating your thinking. So if you were to sit down today and say, put down, one of these 10 capacities, you might write on your fridge, okay, how am I going to think differently about this? And that may mean I'm open to other solutions, to other possibilities. There's, I'll save this for the next one on people relationships. But rethink your thoughts. Okay. Number 4, people capacity. This is your ability to build relationships with people. If you're like me, you're busy, you get into the same circle of people, right? And it's easier to be around people that you like and that are like you, okay? And that think like you. But your ability as a leader is going to be developed by your ability to understand and appreciate people who are more diverse than you are, and to develop the ability to develop those types of relationships, and to place value on who they are and on what they do and on what they think, and to find value in what they are. Great leaders develop their ability to expand their people relationship capacities. And while with people, this kind of goes back to this thinking one. There's a great quote that I love, that when you're with people, it says this: small minds talk about people, average minds speak about things, great minds speak about ideas. Okay? And if you think about that, when you're in your relationships with other people, are you just talking, is it gossip? Is it about just stuff? Or is it about ideas, about things that can change your world, their world, or new thought processes? That's the kind of stuff as well when you think about that. Who do you want to be around? You love to be around people that come up with new ideas and are thoughtful and are creative. So expand your people capacity. The next is creative capacity. And I touched on this a little bit with that other, the chief creative officer, but this is your ability to see options and to see answers and to provide context to a situation. So from a leader standpoint, like, for example, you go to the round table or you go places, oftentimes everything is cookie cutter. Everything is just the one way of doing things. People resist change, right? They only see it one way. To be creative, you've got to be open to the possibilities that there are other ways, there are other solutions, other answers. And your ability as a leader is to sit back and develop the ability to ask more questions. Just, why would that work? How could that work? Why wouldn't it work? Everybody can shoot an idea down, okay? Everybody can shoot an idea down. Everybody can tell us why it's not going to work. But can you tell us how it's going to make it work? And so as a leader, and you're looking and saying, why would people choose to follow me? Is because you're expanding your ability to be creative and to look at different perspectives and expanding that possibility. Okay, the next one, production capacity. And what this really is your ability to accomplish results. Best description of leadership, definition of leadership in the entire world is simply this: leadership is about achieving results in a way that inspires trust. Leadership is about creating trust or achieving results in a way that inspires trust. Leadership is about your ability to create results. Think about any leader that you know, what they do. They're not a leader because they sit back and do nothing. They're a leader because they are able to produce results. And the great leaders are able to do that because they can do it in a way that inspires trust, integrity, and they have competence. And so as you look at where you are as a leader, you need to be asking yourself, am I creating the results that I've put out there? Am I helping other people get real results in their business? And am I doing it in a way that inspires trust with character and with competence? The seventh of these capacities really is your leadership capacity. And that is your ability to lift and to lead other people. And I think that's one where that is a conscious capacity that exists. If you look at your abilities, you rub shoulders, just even within this group, Are you looking to lift? Are you looking to expand? Are you looking for opportunities to lead? Or are you looking for opportunities to sit back and get into the middle of the pack and flow? It's kind of interesting, as I was talking to Topher about this, I'll go back to this, family deal, because the principle still applies. One of the questions that I asked him was, okay, Topher, you're going to be the quote unquote the man in the house. How are you going to lead? Okay. And if I'm Jensen's dad, one of the questions that I would ask you, okay, is how are you going to lead my daughter? How are you going to lead this family? What does that look like? And what proof do you have, okay, that you've done that? What story can you tell? And so similarly, as a leader within your organization, and again, this does not mean that you have to have thousands in your organization. It may be very, very small, but do you have stories of leadership that demonstrate how you have led? Okay. Great leaders are let me just give you a little bit of capacity, some illustrations of some things that you could do. Okay. Leaders, to expand their capacity, are always visualizing. They're kind of looking, saying, what can be? How can this get better? Okay. They are fast starting. Okay. Leaders don't sit back and wait for all of the answers to be there. They will get started fast. They will fail fast. Okay. That's a great, they'll figure it out. I'm watching Carl right now in his 1x3x5 group. Okay. And one of the things Carl's doing is he's just voraciously watching, okay, and trying. And we were on a call the other day and he says, are you guys watching this stuff? Are you learning from this? And Kim Carver had asked the question. He said, well, how do you want us to take this and kind of play it forward? And he goes, no, I don't want you to answer questions in this group, Kim. He says, what I want you to watch for is what's not working in this group. How people are failing so that we can give, quote unquote, failing, so that we can come up with solutions and answers to help them. Because that's part of the iterative process, right? Is falling short and figuring stuff out. So failing fast. Leaders are focused longer, okay, on things. They stay in it longer than the regular guys. So if you think first in, or last in, last out, maybe you wouldn't be what we'd consider to be a leader, but you're focused longer on things. They're self-evaluating all the time. You're looking at yourself and saying, okay, am I measuring up? What can I do better? Getting feedback from other people. They stop doing the things that aren't working. They make decisions, okay? And then they're resilient. Okay, we talked a little bit about that, about being resilient. So those are just some ideas around the leadership piece. Okay, quickly here, some choices. So those are some capacities that if I were you, I would write on the fridge and I would choose some of those. And I'd say on a daily basis, how am I going to expand this level of my leadership quotient? Okay. If it's in production capacity, leadership, if it's on thinking capacity, creative capacity, in some of those areas. Okay. Some choices that you can make. Nobody can take these away from you. Okay. The first is this, and there's 10 of these. I'm going to go quickly again. Responsibility. Okay. Your choice to take charge of your life. Very simple. Okay. You have to choose. You have to be responsible to take charge of your life. 2, character choices. You get to choose what your values are and how will you behave against the set of values that you've created. That's really the measure of integrity, right? Understanding what your values are and then acting in alignment with what those are. But you get to choose what those are. Okay. Abundance capacity. You get to choose to believe that there's more than might be currently available or what may appear to be the case. And that's abundance capacity. Is you can choose to believe that there's more options. You can choose to believe that it's not a zero-sum game, that I win, she loses. I win, he loses. But there's enough there for everybody. Discipline capacity. You can choose to focus now and to follow through. Again, kind of the description of integrity. Intentional capacity. You can choose to be intentional. to deliberately pursue significance. And I think anything of value, anything of worth is going to be an uphill climb, right? But you have to choose. You have to choose to be intentional about what you're going after. Attitude capacity. You can choose what your attitude is going to be. No one else can define that for you or should define that for you, regardless of the circumstances. Risk capacity. You can choose to take risk, okay, to get out of your comfort zone and to push you. Nobody can stop you from doing that if you make that choice. Spiritual capacity, and this, I'm not espousing any religion or anything else or faith, but you can choose to strengthen your belief and determine how that harmonizes with what your values are. You can determine and choose what your growth capacity will be. Choose to focus on how far you want to go. Okay, you can choose if you want to partner and to collaborate with other people. You take those 10 quick choices there, and you take those other 7 capacities that I shared with you, and all of a sudden, what you have is you have this very simple areas or simple things to focus on that can increase the capacity that you have to serve and to grow as a leader. Because in small ways, you've increased your capacity. You've started to think differently about that. Everyone, what was after spiritual? Just looking down at my notes here. Spiritual growth capacity, growth and then partnership capacity. But these are like, again, a big list, but 10 things that you can choose that no one can take away from you. And then 7 pieces that I think are areas of your life that can help you grow, whether it's creative, whether it's relationship. There's some ones that work really well there. Okay, now, to make my point, okay, on the choice piece, and I love this quote, and it's based on this. It's really based on this premise: is that we're not human beings; we're human becomings. Okay, we're just not stagnant. We are. It's who we are becoming, and I think that's always a great question to ask yourself: is who am I becoming in this process? Who am I around? Okay, what are they doing to me? What have they got me doing? What have they got me saying? Where do they have me going? What do they have me thinking? And most importantly, what do they have me becoming, or what do I have myself becoming? And those are all choices that you get to make. And then the moment of truth question here is that okay? Okay, is that okay? Am I where I want to be? So I want to close, and then we've got a few minutes for questions here, and you can kind of push on any of these things, and we drill down a bit more. But this comes from a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl, maybe some of you've read it, or maybe you know a little bit about it. But so Viktor Frankl was a Jewish psychiatrist who lived during the time of the Second World War, and all of his family, loved ones, were all incarcerated in these horrible camps, and they suffered the atrocities that you're all familiar with. And he was fortunate enough, while other family members, wife included, didn't survive. But after he got out, he wrote a book that was called Man's Search for Meaning. And he said this. So I'm going to quote this. He goes, "The one thing you can't take away from me is the way I choose to respond to what you do to me. The last of one's freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given circumstances. We who lived in the concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts, comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It didn't really matter what we expected from life, but rather what life expected from us. We needed to stop asking about the meaning of life and instead to think of ourselves as those who were being questioned by life, daily and hourly. Our answer must consist not in talk, in meditation, and I love this, but in right action and in right conduct. Life ultimately means taking the responsibility to find the right answer to its problems and to fulfill the task which it constantly sets up for each individual. Then here's kind of the punchline. Between stimulus and response, meaning between the time something happens and your ability to respond, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and in our freedom. What that means is you're taking this from someone who was in the most extreme of situations where literally everything was being taken from them. Every little piece of dignity and humaneness was being taken from them, separated from loved ones and everyone else. But yet he saw this vein of gold, if you will, in people, in that they got to choose, even in those situations, what they would do. And it was in those choices that it was determined who they became. The cool thing I think about our business is that, yeah, we've all got life coming at us. We have, we're trying to make a living. We're trying to get the dishes done. We're trying to get the school projects done. We're trying to battle with relationships and with sickness and death and politics and all of the stuff that comes, and trying to become more, in the moment. But the thing that I love is still that I believe in this business is that we have the opportunity to choose to become more. We get to put all these fundamental pieces together. And why I think that's so important is, yes, we're a business that's a health and fitness business about helping people get fit. And I think that, that's the surface, right? I think the thing that we really teach people is that we teach people to do hard things, to dig deep. And in those moments, that's where real integrity and real character is built. And the thing that's so phenomenal about it is that, yeah, it's about you as an individual, but it's about the people that you touch. It's about you, the kids that watch you in these moments, becoming more and really becoming who you want to be. So when you go back to the beginning and ask the question, why would anyone choose to follow you? Here's why I think they would choose to follow you, is because you're becoming someone more than you are right now. Okay. And you represent something that other people want to aspire to. And they see integrity in who you are. They see you doing the hard things. They see you creating consistent results over time. Again, that doesn't mean that you're a 15-star diamond 5 times over, type of a thing. You don't have to do that to be a leader. But it means that you're leading your life and you're helping other people do the same. So hopefully in those 10 little areas of capacity and those 7 little questions of choice, you look at yourself and you say, Teresa Hansen saying to herself, I have more capacity. Okay. Courtney's looking at herself and saying, I've got more in this area or that area, or Vicky or Cassidy, or I can go through every name, Jaylyn. I mean, we go across the board and look at that. But like everything, it takes action. It's leaders act fast and they fail fast. So you can sit back and you can look at this stuff and you can go, well, that was kind of neat, some food for thought, and you can set it on the, put it in the fridge in the styrofoam container and it sits there till you clean the fridge out, right, type of thing. Or you can act on some of these pieces. And I've always found in my life that it's when I'm acting that I find purpose. It's when I'm acting that I find clarity. It's when I'm acting that I'm getting, the results. When I'm acting, that's when the joy of life comes. And so I just want to say thanks for being coaches. Thanks for doing what you're doing. Thanks for being on here. Thanks for, looking to raise the bar in your own personal life and in the lives of others. I think about where we are as a company. we all know last year was a year with headwinds. I look at this year and I'm really optimistic, enthusiastic about it. I think with what's happening right now with 80-day obsession, we're launching bars. There's supposedly a new program out there with Joel or something. I haven't seen anything about it, but it's kind of being whispered out there somewhere. There's something there. So, I think that's going to be an absolutely great product. In our Hispanic market, we've got what we're calling Ivy League. We're going to be doing these, what we're referring to, and you'll hear more at Super Saturday on it, is our early access into Beachbody On Demand that creates even more earning opportunities, for coaches. So what we've really tried to do as a company is to pull all these pieces and the learnings from last year and we missed it on some things, but we're learning. And so we're course correcting on those to create what I think are some real great opportunities, for coaches, and earning opportunities to help people get fit, but also to change your life financially and so that you can enjoy not only the necessities of life, but a lot of the niceties of life. And I think that the runway is being set. And for those that want to run with us and partner with us, I think it's going to be good. So anyway, Britt, I'm at time. So if there's any questions, love to answer any questions.
That was so good. Thank you, Jeff, so much.
You don't have to say that. You're just out here. I bought her a sugar cookie yesterday, so there you go.
But I took 4 pages of notes, so I can only imagine what my coaches took. But we literally have time for about 2 questions. So if you have a question, please unmute yourself and ask Jeff real quick before he has to jump off.
Hey, Jeff. I have a quick question. So actually, I read No Limits by John Maxwell last year, and it was perfect timing because 2017 was awful for personal and my business. So it was perfect timing. I've always been in like the survivor mentality when it came to my health and my and my business. So like I always worked at like there was no plan B, right? Okay. So I have a question for you. So I love that you talked on awareness plus ability plus choices equal capacity, right? And awareness, it always starts with awareness, being aware with what you're doing, what's working, what's not working. However, when it comes to me, I'm able to translate what's not working and move forward. But I have a few coaches that, whether they're brand new and they crush it right out the gates, or they hit diamond and they're, great business builders. And then whatever happens, life happens, right? And it comes crumbling down for them. But for some reason, they cannot build that belief back in themselves again. Do you have any suggestion on how to help them with that?
Oh, that's like the holy grail of life, isn't it? No, I mean, it really is in a lot of ways. I mean, here's where I see most coaches struggling with this, and I think it's a rare thing. But to me, it's the ability to operate from the long view of things. To have established. We always talk about the why, but to me, it's taking the time with the coach to identify, clarify, and to really dig deep with what their long view of what they want out of life is, and then who they are becoming and why that is meaningful to them. And that's going to be the piece that, even though something may take a back burner for a while, something might, get a little lukewarm for a while, is the piece that they will come back to when all is said and done. And so I think it's sometimes it's easy for us to be fixers, from the standpoint of just jump. And I'm a fixer. I've got 7 kids, and I mean, I'm in a constant state of fixing, kind of a deal. But it's and from a business standpoint. But sometimes the best thing that I can do is just to say, okay, let's helicopter up, step back, okay, and get into the why question, why you're doing this. Why is it meaningful to you? Does this align with you? To me, where most of I'm not a very bright guy, but there's a few principles that work for me time and time again. And it's this idea that all organizations, all people are perfectly aligned to get the results they get. And alignment is kind of the overarching principle of, I think, of life in some respects, meaning that I don't want to get too heady on this, but simply meaning is if your values are aligned with your end purpose, okay, you'll get there over time. And when we get out of whack, it's because obviously we're not aligning like we should. So with those people, I think with those individuals, and we all get there sometimes in our life, some point in our life, if we swim out of the lane, is you've got to go back to that piece, help them identify what it is, and see whether what we do, who we are, aligns with that. And if in the long view it doesn't, then it doesn't. But I think that's the biggest thing that you can do, is to help them, is to take that moment with them. Does that make sense? I didn't say that very artfully, but
no, it was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Do you still have time for one more question, or do you need?
I've got time. Yeah, till 3 minutes. I've got. If there's another question.
One last question.
Scared everybody off.
Ooh, you may have. Just kidding. I think you answered all of them.
I have that effect on people.
Okay, let's just close, so then that way you can jump to your next meeting. Thank you so much, Jeff. So incredible. Leaders, please take this to your team. You are so, of course. Thank you, Jeff. So thanks, ladies, for joining us. Have an amazing day, and we'll see y'all soon, okay?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.